Well, hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Monday Momentum, where, hey, listen, we try to find the momentum we need, the spiritual momentum, even the emotional momentum that we need to keep going through the week. So I hope you've had a good Monday and you found somewhere cool. It's getting hot out there. And I want to say that if you were part of the Father's Day celebration that we had, the tailgate party in the back parking lot yesterday, listen, it was an amazing time. It was epic. Can I just use that word? And we had so much fun being together. Here's what I love about our church. We love being together. And that was evident yesterday. We enjoyed each other. We connected. We laughed. We celebrated. So it was so much more than a service. It was just more. It was just a great relational experience, and I had so much fun walking around talking to so many of you. And so, boy, I've heard over and over again, can we do this again? And I'm sure we will. So I think more is to come. So we learned a lot. Try to pay attention to what you were saying to us, because we're learning too. I mean, just while you're watching this video, you're tuning in to learn, but we're all learning. We're all growing. We're all changing. We're all trying to follow Jesus. So in a way, we're all doing this together. So thank you for helping us learn. So today, we're going to jump back into our topic. How does God, bring about transformation in our life? It's a big, messy topic. It is something that's going to happen for the rest of our life. He keeps changing us. There are pieces that He does. There are pieces that we do. But there's this beautiful partnership that takes place. So the last couple of weeks, we have been talking about how God uses difficulty to change us. It's a hard topic, right? So we're going to finish it up today, and you're probably thinking, thank goodness, all right? So it's still something, though, that we need to lean into. We can't just skip over it, because we're all going to go through difficulty and hardship, and God's going to use it in our life to change us. So that's what we've been talking about. So let's just kind of jump in midstream. And if you've missed the last couple of ones, boy, why don't you go back and watch those? And so all of this will kind of build on each other. So how does God use difficulty? And how do we partner with that? So part of this is this. So when we're going through difficulty, don't blame God for the difficulties that we encounter in this life. Because sometimes we do, right? We're just like, God, what's going on? Why are you doing this to me? But He's not, all right? James 1:13-15 says, and remember, when you're being tempted, do not say, God is tempting me. So God's doing this to me. God is never tempted to do wrong, and He never tempts anyone else. Temptation comes from our own desires, which entice us and drag us away. So those things come from with us. So God did not create the hardship that you're currently going through, although He did allow it. How does He allow it? Well, again, in the most simplistic way, it's simply this. We live in a broken world. We live with broken people. So difficulty is going to come. God's not going to put us in some protective bubble. And so He's not creating it, but He's also not going to stop it because of this broken, sinful, evil world we live in. So it's going to happen. And so when it does happen, again, God isn't sending lightning bolts and on you because you're such a sinner, all right? I know some churches say that, but that's not true. And God is not the one doing this to you. Now, God will never allow hardship so that you fail. God's not trying to make you fail. Please don't think that either. God allows difficulty so that we learn how to rely on Him and trust Him in this life. Hardship is never about failing. It is about learning. It's not about failing. Sometimes we get so binary in how we think. Okay, it's about winning. It's about losing. Okay, I either overcome or I fail, and God's disappointed with me. Remember, God is always process-oriented. What does that mean? The process is as important to God as the final result. We're always final result oriented. God knows that as we learn, we fail. God knows that. So failure is built into the process. God's not shocked that you fail. God's not shocked that you stumble. God's not shocked that you didn't overcome. But are you learning? He's more concerned with that. And so God's not doing this to you, okay? And He's not even allowing this to happen to you so that you fail. He wants you to learn. So are you learning? And then one more thing here. Our failure comes from within us. Because as James says, listen, it doesn't come from God. It comes from within us. The temptation comes from within us. The desire to do the wrong thing comes from within us. And that's why we need to be transformed. Now, here's another thing about difficulties. Don't think the difficulty is something you're going to grow beyond. 1 Peter 4 says, dear friends, don't be surprised at the fiery trials you are going through. Don't be surprised as if something strange was happening to you. Oh man, I hear this all the time. And I suppose I've thought that too. You're going through something difficult. You're like, come on, what's going on? This shouldn't be happening. So we're never going to get a free pass when it comes to trials and hardships in this life. The only way we can limit the amount of trials to some degree is to grow and allow God to transform our character, give us endurance. If we resist the process, we only make the hardship harder and longer, all right? So I don't believe that obedience protects you from hardship. I think a lot of Christians believe that too. I'm doing the right thing. You know, Pastor Dale says obedience equals blessing. It does equal blessing, but blessing isn't a bubble again. A blessing isn't, I'm doing the right thing, therefore God's never going to allow hardship or bad things happen to my life. No, that's not what it means. You're never going to get to a place where God's just going to protect you from all that. So what obedience does protect you from is self-inflicted hardship. I'm trying to limit that more and more in my life, okay? Because some of the hardship that we have, sometimes it's just self-inflicted from our own choices. So, here's another thing about hardship. Trust that God is doing more than we can understand, than what we physically see. Now, the book of Philippians, the Apostle Paul is in prison. And he writes from prison and he says, I want you to know, my dear brothers and sisters, that everything that has happened to me has helped spread the good news. Everything has happened. He got put in prison, all right, in a Roman dungeon. For everybody, including the whole palace guard, knows that I am in chains because of Christ, and because of my imprisonment, most of the believers here have gained confidence to boldly speak God's message without fear. Again, Paul penned these words while he's in prison. He's chained up to guards. You know, now it seems like God's plan was put on hold because the greatest evangelist of the church has now been arrested and he's in prison and he can't preach. But Paul says, no, look, I'm seeing God do some amazing things. I mean, it wasn't my plan either, but I'm seeing God even has an agenda in the hardship. God even has an agenda in the difficulty. So, since he's God, would it not make sense to always assume that he is accomplishing more than we currently see or understand? Yes, he's doing something in your life. Yes, he's doing something in my life through the difficulty. But I'm telling you, it's never just about us. God has a larger agenda. Even if we can't see it, even if we can't understand it, we should just go, you know what, Lord, I don't like what I'm going through, but I'm going to learn and I'm going to grow. I'm going to trust you through it. And I also know that you're doing more than I can see. There's other things going on here that I don't understand. Your ways are higher than my ways, so I'm going to trust. I'm going to trust that you're doing more. All right, one more. Transformation is experienced. In fact, it's experienced by experiencing Jesus. That he is enough. So I go back to the book of Philippians, and remember, Paul is in prison. And he says this in Philippians 4. Not that I was ever in need, for I have learned, keyword learned, how to be content in whatever I have. I know how to live in almost nothing or with everything. I've learned, he used the word again, the secret of living in every situation, whether it's with a full stomach or empty, with plenty or little. And he goes on and uses a verse that we all like to quote, for I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. He's writing from prison, talking about contentment, talking about Jesus being enough. It's only through experiencing difficulty where we have the opportunity to see Jesus as the ultimate source of being enough. I like to say that he is the great enough. And I'm telling you, and I wish it wasn't so, but it just is. It's part of our humanity. It's part of learning. The only way for us to experience, not know in your head, experience that Jesus is enough is often when you get to the end of your rope and you don't think you have anything left. And often you don't. And I know some Christians, they like to say, God won't give you any more than you can handle. See, I disagree with that. I think sometimes God allows things in life that are more than we can handle all the time. And it pushes us to the end of ourselves I know that sounds negative, but it's not. Because sometimes, unless I get to the end of myself, I never experience Jesus being enough in a supernatural way. Because ultimately, transformation is a supernatural experience with Jesus. You can't make it happen. And sometimes until we get to the end of ourselves, we just don't get it. We just don't understand how he can be enough beyond my resources. Paul understood that, and I hope you do too. That's where you find the momentum to keep going. May God pour that into you this week. If you're facing hard challenges and difficulties and you feel like you're at the end of your rope, he can be enough for you one day at a time. Lord bless you.